Hey up! Welcome Resistance Chicks. We're the hosts, Leah and Michelle.
The hostess with the mostest.
So, I don't know if they saw Horatio McSherry's last video on British politics, but if you missed it, we'll have a link at the end. So, Horatio, he hails from West Yorkshire. White rose, white rose! White rose, white rose! If you don't get that, you're gonna have to go and Google it.
White rose, white rose! 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 Yorkshire! 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 Yorkshire!
But, back to Yorkshire. Yorkshire, the Yorkshiremen, they're proud. Very proud. You don't mess with the Yorkshire, you know. Horatio says, I don't care. So, we have a link at the end for the last video so you can laugh. So he hails from West Yorkshire, the accent which I'm currently butchering. So, without more ado, we're going to let Horatio take the show away so he can show us how it's done and take us to school. There they go.
Without further ado, Horatio, Mr. Cherry.
It's the best of good. Alright.
I had no idea she was going to flamboozle herself across.
I'm going to put a link at the end for that incredible. You can Google Yorkshire stuff until you are blue in the face. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're a little bit crazy, but they're really fun.
Thank you, Horatio.
He strips down naked and you're going to fight him. There's a Star Wars one and everything.
You need to stop there.
Now then, welcome once again to the sunny hills of West Yorkshire. Now you might remember in the last video I mentioned that British politics changed in 1997, and change it did. 1997 is also the time when all our paths really started to cross. It's also the reason why we find ourselves every day looking through our YouTube portals to Ohio to watch these two lovely ladies say the things that we're thinking and highlight the things that the mainstream media are only too happy to brush under the carpet as mere trivialities. It's also the reason why the man who brought most of us British to God's little acre, Nigel Farage, became arguably the most important British politician in the last 50 years.
We love Nigel.
He said God's little acre. Blairism. 1997.
In 1997, Tony Blair led New Labour to a landslide election victory. Now, you'll notice straight away that I said New Labour, I didn't say Labour. Labour are a very broad church when it comes to trying to identify just what kind of socialists they are. But if you take them as a whole and you label them as Marxists, you're not going to be too far away. They're all about the state having control of the means of production. They're all about the state intervening heavily in the economy. And like all good socialists, they're all for the state intervening heavily in education. Always very important in any socialist society that the state has control of education. Now, New Labour are a little bit different. They aren't pure socialists. They are in fact a parasitical wing of the Labour Party, and they believe in a philosophy called the Third Way, which try and merges the state control of socialism with the financial gains of capitalism. That's the philosophy, but in reality all it is an open wound that leads to crony corporatism, or as you guys say in the US, crony capitalism. We all know that politicians get elected by gaining the most votes, and they go about this by bribing the population with various free gifts. Free milk, free honey, free unicorn for every man, woman and child, and it often works.
I want some free honey!
Want a free unicorn, I would.
I'll take
but
it.
We're not daft either, we don't want to pay for it. And this is where the Third Way gets around it, and this is where the crony corporatism comes in. Because we don't like to pay for it, we don't want to see that spending. So what the politicians do, they let private companies pay for it up front, so the figures aren't on the government's books, and then by the time the politician's out of office, that's when the bill is due and the politician is nicely ensconced as a board member on the company that got the job in the first place.
Stinker!
Conveniently.
Stinker!
Ensconced. The Third Way,
now,
USA.
you guys in the good old US of A, you also have the Third Way. But knowing your politics, you already knew that. It's just that we come at it from opposite ends of the spectrum. We come at it from a socialist point of view. We have to pay for all the monumentally daft, colossally expensive government projects that they're trying to push forward. But because the poor old taxpayer is taxed so much we can't give anymore, they needed a new revenue stream. And the Third Way was the best way of going about that. Now you guys come at it from a capitalist point of view. You guys have got tons and tons and tons of mega corporations who just want to make even more money. And the best way of doing that is by suckling at the teat of the poor American taxpayer. But they need help. So along comes Mr. Clinton, Mr. Obama, Mr. Caring, Mr. Sharing, who just love lavishing gifts on poor and downtrodden. And that's great. Until just before they're ready for leaving office, or maybe just after they've left office, then the bills start coming in, and then the taxpayer realises just how biblical the rates of return are when the government starts cutting money to pay for that borrowing. And when an event like the crash 2008 happened, the taxpayer realises there is no money and the government has to start printing money, which then helps the banks and the corporations who were there in the first place.
The MO.
Now, after 8 years of Obama, unfortunately you guys are probably used to what we had to get used to under New Labour. They're the same people, they have the same policies, and they have the same modus operandi. It may be the politicians that make the rules, however, it's their supporters and their followers who are the ground troops, who enforce those rules and how to think. They're the ones who show up anywhere and shout down anyone who's got a different point of view. You're the racist, you're the bigot, you're the fascist, you're the xenophobe, you're the imperialist, you're the little Englander, you're a Tory pig, you're too stupid to understand anything. But Labour backed that up. What they did, they scandalously gave civil servants, unelected civil servants, powers to fine and censure people who didn't follow the rules, and they liked nothing more than making sure you knew that they were in charge and not you. You could be fined for anything under New Labour, and they loved making little rules and regulations that really wound people up. The more it annoyed people, the more they loved those rules and regulations and the more they enforced them. You could be fined for throwing the wrong type of rubbish in your own dustbin, for example.
Trash can.
If you were a pub and you wanted to play music, you had to have a music permit. You could also have a live band on, but you could also be fined for that if you didn't also have a live music permit to go with your other music permit. They introduced the smoking ban, and whether you agree with that or not is not really the point. The government should not be legislating for what private enterprises do within their four walls. And that really ripped the heart out of the last bastion of the working man, and that was a local pub. We have lost tens of thousands of local pubs since the smoking ban came in. Anything that kicks the working man, they loved it. They increased the bottom tax band from 10% to 20%, so the poorest people who paid tax now paid double the amount of tax in that tax band. They taxed pensions to the tune of £10 billion a year, thanks to Gordon Brown, who needed some cash to pay for all his wars. They doubled the tax code to 17,000 pages of tax laws. 17,000, and you could be fined from day one for not complying with any of that law. They increased the fuel duty stabiliser, which means as petrol prices get lower, the tax on that petrol gets higher. So they love that one. That's a really cheeky one, it's that they love that. They introduced every single piece of legislation that the EU asked them to introduce. At no point did they argue Britain's case. In fact, we even gave a lot of our rebate back that Margaret Thatcher had argued for in the 80s. We handed over our fishing waters to the Spanish, and now our fishing stocks are depleted. We handed the agricultural policy, which favours the French, over to the EU at the expense of our farmers. The doors open to immigration, and they said, they've actually admitted that they did it to rub the right's nose in immigration. So that's a great piece of policy. They allow extremist Muslim communities to run their own affairs. That's why police don't often go in, because they've been told that they can run their communities how they want, within reason. It's not within reason. They've covered up child abuse on a biblical scale, because the people who were doing the abusing were not the right people. The armed forces to such an extent that they went into battle ill-clad, ill-equipped. Some of them couldn't even afford to pay for somewhere to live. They were living in houses that were condemned. And then on top of that, Tony Blair, for his legacy, he sent those people into Iraq, into Afghanistan, on a pack of lies, all for his legacy. Well, that's not quite turned out how we thought, did it?
So why not vote for someone else?
So I know what you're thinking. If New Labour were this bad, why didn't people just vote for the Conservatives? Go to your booth, put your tick in a box, job done. But you have to understand that New Labour didn't just infiltrate the Labour Party. They also infiltrated the Conservative Party. They also infiltrated the Liberal Democrats and all the other parties as well. So it didn't matter who you voted for. The only difference between them would be the colour of the ties. All the policies would be the same. They'd all be pro-EU, and none of them represented any of the 65 million people in the country. The only person who was saying something different was an odd-looking chap from Kent called Nigel. Now, he seemed to act like the rest of the population did. He seemed to talk like the rest of the population did. He seemed to see the same problems that were occurring that the rest of the population did. And unlike all the other politicians, he didn't overtly dislike the general population. So his character grew and his prominence grew. And the more that that grew, the more that the other politicians hated him. Every time he made a speech, they would scream blue murder. And as soon as that started happening, people of this country start thinking, well, if they think that, then he must be right. And then it was a snowball effect from then on.
Thank God for that.
So I hope I've not bored you to tears or bored you enough that you started eating your own foot. Maybe I'll do another one of these videos, or maybe this has just been too much. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.
Oh, Horatio, I thoroughly enjoyed that schooling, and I believe...
Raise your hand if you just learned a whole lot.
I really did. We get a lot of messages on the EU, and we appreciate our British viewers for sending that to us, because what we don't recognize a lot of times in the United States is that there's a deep state, and it's really connected. The tentacles go straight over the Atlantic to the EU, and it's like this cancerous beast that goes vroom, 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 and they suck the life out of each other. They suck out the life out of both the European continent and the American continent. Isn't that a really good visual?
They absolutely
So Horatio, you really helped us to see. I mean, what I could see like videos I wanted to like put up with that. Like, I want people to see Nigel Farage. If maybe some of our viewers even possibly don't know who he is, Google Nigel Farage. You're not laughing now, are you? And he is like the only guy, like the main guy taking down the deep state in the European Union. I mean, it's a giant machine telling everyone in a whole continent what to do.
And how to run their countries.
You know, all these different languages, all these different people, all these microcosms. I was watching a video, somebody sent me a video, and I played a little clip of it about small communities. He's talking about local pubs. And the local pub for them, from what Horatio was saying, was that you would just go at the end of your work day.
Oh yeah, he's told me some stories about like the baker will bring bread at the end of the day and give it away or whatever.
Community place.
You know, the butcher will bring, you know, chicken or whatever. It's a very community place where they go and they just shoot the breeze.
But now you have more like commercial chain type places to go, and we are all about small local businesses, hometown, because in the documentary I was watching, for every $1 you spend locally, it's multiplied to 2 or 4 times.
No, jobs. It equals 2 to 4 times jobs as your dollar that is being spent.
Not just jobs, but the economic impact.
Right.
It's that more valuable. You can spend $4 in a corporation, or $1 to your local community, and that's the kind of impact that you make.
Exactly.
And in order to take the tentacles out of these giant deep states, we have to just go local. I mean, everybody wonders, what can I do?
Right.
What can I do? And this is what we tell everybody. You can change the world.
Go ahead.
You can change the world.
Yeah.
By buying from your neighbor, by buying from the local store, or buying from a local craftsman, or trading, or making things for yourself. And what you're not going to get is taxpayer money for the politicians to be able to steal votes with and to manipulate people with.
Right.
And we're all about like deregulation, like medical things, like holistic doctors. We want homeopathic remedies. We want to be able to treat ourselves and have access to treatment that is more natural. We have books on it, and we want to be able to share that with people. And we don't like big pharma, because in our humble opinion, they keep people sick and keep people getting sicker so that it's a big giant cycle.
Right, and what I think is so important about our American viewers, why are we bringing Horatio to you? Because the British viewers, you guys already know all of this stuff. Or maybe you don't, Horatio is teaching you something as well. But we're bringing this to you because, as Horatio said, listen, the EU, they implemented all of these laws and Britain just swallowed them. Every single one of them without fighting back, without arguing. And they're like, and I don't know how many times, if I had $1 for every comment I had from a British person that says, don't let this happen to you guys. Save yourselves before it's too late. Now granted, with Brexit, I don't think it's too late for you guys, but it is important for America to see where one country got sucked in and all of their rights and their sovereignty was taken away, well, and we don't want that to happen here.
We're kind of there. We're trying to get out of it. We're
I think we're there more than, and he said, you guys can see this kind of third way, kind of socialistic party here in the United States, whereas I don't actually lean it more towards the Bernie people as I do just straight up to the deep state liberals. You know what I mean?
Oh,
they're the ones that really just want to take everything.
The evil people who sit down and decide what everybody else is going to do.
Right.
And they're going to take, they got a room full of people, and they take all your money, and then they give like $1 back to you, and then they give $1 back to you, and you're supposed to say, thank you.
Please, sir, I'd like some more.
Can I have some more, please? Well, I don't have enough food. Can I have some more? Well, we stole your farm. We stole your family's farm, and so we'll give you some food stamps.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how this works. We want to get at the root. So when we talk about social programs, I'm all for food stamps and disability and helping the disabled, especially right now, because if you pull that, a lot of people be hurt. However, what we come and we bring on Resistance Chicks is we try to take the cancer and the tumor out, not try to just treat the symptom, but try to treat the cause.
Right.
And so you'll see we're not on the big bang wagon. We're not the same kind of conservatives that hammer people who take food stamps, or hammer people who are on disability, or we don't hammer the little guy. Listen, I don't care if you're poor and you need help, you get your help, okay?
While the rest of us work on fixing the system.
Exactly. We want to get the big bankers and the big corporations out. They're a cancer.
Our country should be such that the churches and independent donation and charities like that take care of the poor, and the government doesn't do it. That is our ultimate goal.
That's our ultimate goal. Because $1 that I give to one person is going to be multiplied by so many more. And I think I told you guys this before. Only 30% of every dollar that the government takes from taxes actually goes to,
and this is here in the United States,
a person who needs it.
Right.
70% is for overhead and administrative costs. The other figure is if you
were to get rid of all the administrative people,
and you just handed every person under the poverty line $60,000. If you took all the charity organizations together and you just gave everyone under the poverty line $60,000 straight up cash, that's it.
Right.
You could do
it. A year,
yeah.
All right, so thank you very much, Horatio, for explaining the British politics.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. It was really fun. I hope you do more. I hope you do more in the EU, because I'm still researching it and still looking at all the different aspects of the EU.
And here's the thing, because I know a lot of you Brits, I know we're getting long here, I do need to close this off, are like, listen, we're in Brexit, the EU is done, get over it. Whereas, guess what, you're still in the negotiation phase. So the EU still needs to be talked about, and you know,
still got 2 years of it.
You may got on the lifeboat, but there's other people that need to be saved, and so the corruption needs to be talked about. It needs to be dismantled and fallen apart.
There's more than people that watch us than in the UK. We care about everybody.
Right. All right. So this is Leah Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it's not a conspiracy theory.
If it's the truth,
don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We love you. God loves you, and God bless.
Yeah.
See you soon.
I was called